Okay, so I have to ask. I mean, you're doing Detective Comics. You're doing iconic characters. For you as like a creator, how does that feel to be able to take something that has such history like a Batman and add to it?
I mean, it's an incomparable feeling, really. Excuse me. It's, these are characters who mean so much to me. Like down to like they're important to even to the formation of my character. Like, so the idea that I get to add to the toy box, that I get to find ways to connect them in new ways, to do something where, like, the current run of Detective Comics, the thing that I love about it is that ultimately my goal was always to cut back to the cores of each of these characters. And even with a character like Clayface, sort of find an idea, like an ideal core that may not have ever really existed in comics, where it was just like everyone has 20 different ideas of who Clayface is. So how do you find a kind of singular core that encompasses all of it? So all of those goals together, but then in trying to find that core, also trying to do something new, and that's just by putting them all together. To do Detective Comics as a team book, rather than have Batman say, "No, you can't like go out there and fight in the streets," and then they go do it anyway. You have Batman say, "Yes, but I'm going to help you do it better." And it changes the dynamic of Gotham City. And that's the thing that I hope, that's my own little touch. That's the thing I got to put back in the mix.
So, with Rebirth and went back to the original numbering, is that kind of impact you more? Do you think about it, you're like, instead of doing issue 1 or 2 or 3, you're doing 700 something? Like, that it's got to feel more like historical, and that there's so much more, history to it, or much to it.
Absolutely. It's in the direct line of the title that created Batman, created so many of the characters in the book. Like, I was so hoping I actually went through one day and checked each one, and there were a couple of them that were introduced in the pages of Batman, not Detective. It would make me feel awesome if each of them were introduced in the pages of Detective. And then I would say that I was planning that from the beginning. But this is I get to be a part of the history. It is the same title that created all of this, and then on top of that, it's the title that named the company. Right. So it's incredible to be a part of that legacy in the modern era, where that was Scott Snyder's first Batman, that was Rucka's Batwoman, it was everything Dini has done. The modern era, it had such incredible stories in and of itself, but then going all the way back through Dixon, through everyone. It's there's a responsibility that comes with it to do something exciting and new, and put my own touch on it. So yeah.
Just kind of speaking of exciting and new, you've kind of taken this group, you've created this team of Bat characters with quite a few of them having a rabid fan base. I think you know where I'm going to go with this. And you're putting them through a lot of stuff. You're adding depth to some of them. Spoilers, gone through a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Do you feel, going back to that pressure of knowing that there's this rabid fan base who's very vocal, as a creator, is that on your mind when going through all that?
Sure. And especially when they make their opinions known. But at the end of the day, I have to trust my internal compass. And I know that there are people out there who disagree with certain directions that I've taken with Stephanie Brown in particular, but it's her story. I know the full arc of her story, and they're in the weird, she's going through the down part before the up part again, and it's just this. Knowing the full arc means that I can sit with confidence, knowing that this is a story that will add more spoiler fans to the number of spoiler super fans. So it's just that's part of the goal. But also all of these characters, it's there is a responsibility to tap into the aspects of the character that make the people love them. But I've never been the sort of person where it's just like, okay, like the characters I love are the ones that I put through the most, like, horror on the page, because they're the ones that I keep coming up with stories for. So,
so the big thing that seems to be going through Detective, and we're gonna get to Immortal Men, but with Detective is my last question on that, is you seem to be exploring the ramifications of what they're all doing. Yeah. It's not really something you think about a lot of the time. Batman fights the Joker, all these people are injured, and we never really hear from them again. It's just every so often there might be mentions, or Batman might think about it. But here you're, with villains they've fought, or even Stephanie's stance, like you seem to really be tackling that for maybe the first time that I've read in a Batman series. Possibly, yeah. not quite sure on that. Where did kind of that thought to come from?
A lot of it comes from the key role that Tim Drake plays in the story, honestly. Because one of the things that I think is unique to Tim Drake and the Bat family is that he spends a lot of time thinking about the mission. And not the mission in terms of how to, Bruce thinks about the mission, but he thinks about how to accomplish the mission. Tim thinks about it as an abstract thing that can be improved and tweaked and made better. So I wanted to, so that's why core to the series, it's the creation of a new mission. Of the mission of bringing all of these characters together, and you see there's an issue, I think it's the second to last part of the Victim Syndicate, where it has a flashback to before it all started, and Tim laying out his full vision of what the Bat family can be to Gotham City. And those 2 pages are are really the key to unlocking the entire run, because we are seeing the different elements of it. You have the kind of the radical reactionaries in the Victim Syndicate, and now Anarchy coming on plays. You have the people who who approach it from there's no cost too great, like the ends justify the means, through the Colony and the League of Shadows and what Ra's al Ghul has been up to in the shadows. Like, you have all these things, and then the Bat family's firmly in the center, trying to become something, they're the ones with an almost each of them have a utopian vision that they're sort of pushing out there, and we're seeing the battles between those kind of 3 points of view. And sort of at the heart of it will ultimately be a Tim Drake story, and that's why it's so exciting that he's finally coming back, because we're going to see some of the dangers in what he's done, because I like confronting heroes with the consequences of their actions. And we also see that with Clayface, who is going through this huge redemption arc.
Huge fan of his.
And thank you. But the thing is that at the end of the day, he's done really terrible things in his past, and that's not just erased by him being a good person. So it's not the kind of pure black and white, good makes good and bad makes bad. That doesn't work always. And getting to confront these characters with that is the goal of the series. And getting to kind of bring it all to a major culmination point in the story that starts after the return of Tim Drake in A Lonely Place of Living is, that's going to be a big story, and I'm very excited for it.
All right, Immortal Men. We know very little about it, so to be honest, there was kind of the initial announcement, little things kind of leaked out here and there. What can you tell us more about what you're doing? You're obviously doing a new spin on kind of classic characters.
Right. So, the goal here is The Immortal Men is the story of the secret history of heroes and villains in the DC universe. It is the idea, it's stuff that we touched upon in Dark Days the Forge and Dark Days the Casting, the idea that there are these immortal figures who have been acting through time and shaping the history of the world. And we're going to learn that none more so than the former members of the Bear Clan, who among their number is the Immortal Man, and that's the one classic DC character that's sort of at the heart of this. But we're going to see, the way we're tweaking it is that back at the dawn of man, it wasn't just Immortal Man who got the gift of immortality. It was his entire family, and so there are 5 siblings who all believe that they know that they were all made immortal, and all believe that they know the best way to save the world. And each of them have their own acolytes, and each of them have their own sort of teams that are operating in different spheres of influence. But one of them, the eldest sister, Rain, she is going out. She has basically won because she believes that war, the conflict, is what drives humanity to continue existing. That humans need to be in active competition in order to win. And her brother, the Immortal Man, believes that it's single great actions. It's good men, it's heroes who save the world. And the Immortal Men comic begins with him losing, and the last few members of his team, the core cast of the Immortal Men, who are heroes from different eras of history, who decide to give up their life to fight the never-ending battle to save the world. The last few members are going to have to find this new member whose abilities are just coming to life in New York City, because he might be the only way to save the world ultimately.
So it sounds like it's a big, kind of an epic familial clash. I'm not going to name another series that kind of sounds like, but that's kind of the concept you're going with?
Oh yeah, no, it's got, it's built out of the pieces of everything that I love, like in pop culture and all of that, and that was core to what Jim and I started talking about. That there are elements of, like Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, The Matrix, the X-Men, and then all kind of molded together, and with being able to bring heroes out of different eras. You get to have, we have Ghost Fist, who is kind of a classic pulp character who is he was the hero of 1920s Harlem. We have Timber, who's like a classic American folk hero who from the upper Midwest. We have we've got all sorts in this team, and this is going to be this is one of the biggest, craziest things I've ever tried writing, and working with Jim Lee on it is a real dream come true, and I think it's going to be something really special and strange and wonderful.